Boys and girls watching, we are back at the pond today, and we're going to talk about some things that God made that are called reptiles. Say that with me. Reptiles. Reptiles are like lizards and alligators, and I want to talk specifically today about snakes. Ooh, yeah. I want to talk to you about snakes. So let's look at our snakes. So step straight and talk. Oh, you want that snake to see you doing your best. Look at that snake. He is hiding in those bushes. He is looking to find something yummy to eat. Let's talk about snakes. Do you see the snake? Does he have arms and legs? No, the turtle does. I mean, the frog does. The frog says arms, doesn't he, or legs. He's got 4 legs that he can hop around in. The duck and the goose, they have legs that they walk around in. A bird at the pond has legs. But how does a snake get around? How do they get around? They slither. That's right, they slither. That means they go like this. They slither on their bellies. That's how they get around. They slide around and they slither on their bellies because they don't have arms and legs to get around in. And that's how they move around. Now, there's something very interesting about the way that God made the snakes. Do you know that snakes have eyes? They have a mouth. They have a tongue that goes like this. It likes to stick out a lot and wiggle. But it doesn't have ears. I know, but that's how God wanted to make it. And as for God, his way is what? Perfect. Perfect. So the snake does not have any ears. So I wonder how it knows if he can't see any food. I wonder how he would know if there's a bird around that he could eat, or if there's something crawling around in the grass while he's there, or I wonder how he would know that. Well, it's really neat how God helps him to know those things without being able to hear them. He has great big eyes, but guess what? He knows that there's things around him because of something called vibrations. Say that. Vibrations. It's kind of like when you turn on a radio. If you had earphones in your ears and you didn't have them plugged into a radio and you couldn't hear the music, if you put your hands on top of the radio or the stereo, you could feel something. You would feel it kind of moving around. That's called a vibration. What is it called? A vibration. That's right. It's called a vibration. Kind of like when we hear thunder and lightning. If you couldn't hear the thunder, you could feel your house kind of shake a little bit. That's a vibration. Things that move, but you can't hear it, is a vibration. And that's how the snakes can tell. When they slither on the ground, they can tell if something is moving around maybe there's a tiger. But of course you wouldn't find a tiger at the pond. But there are snakes in the jungle. So a snake that would be in the jungle, he wouldn't necessarily, what if he couldn't hear that lion? Well, he can't hear the lion, he doesn't have ears. If the lion was there roaring, but he couldn't see the lion, but he could feel him going like this, coming closer and closer and closer, he would be able to feel it moving on the ground because of the vibration that the tiger was making. And so he can move away and slither away so he wouldn't get eaten. But that's how he hears things. Because he doesn't have ears, he has to go by the vibrations he feels on his belly. That's how he feels. So the snake, he moves around on his belly, and he might eat a frog. He might eat some bugs. He would definitely eat that goose right there. And some snakes are really big, and they could eat like a deer. They could swallow a deer. They could eat a deer. Now, a deer is bigger, isn't it? A deer is bigger than a snake, but the snakes are dangerous. Do we ever want to play with a snake? No. No, you don't ever want to play with a snake, especially if you're outside and you see a snake. Now, you could go to a pet store, and you could ask to see a snake, and they would let you hold a snake that's not poisonous. They could let you do that, but it has to be supervised. That means there has to be an adult there to let you hold that snake. But if you see a snake in your backyard, you want to either stand very still and call for mommy and daddy, or if you see it kind of far away, you could very quietly go back in the house and let mommy and daddy know that there's a snake there, because snakes are fast. They are very fast. Even though they don't have legs to run, they slither really fast. God made them very, very fast. Now, can snakes talk? No. There was only one snake in the whole world that could talk. Do you remember who that snake was?
The serpent.
The serpent in the Bible. That's right, the serpent in the Bible. God allowed that serpent to talk. Do you know that when that serpent was talking, he did have legs? He did. He had legs and he had arms, but because he was tricky, because he got Adam and Eve to do things that were not right, and then Adam and Eve did not make a good choice, it was Adam and Eve's fault for disobeying. Nobody else makes you disobey. They try to get you in trouble, but you have to make the right choice. Well, because that serpent, God's enemy, chose to disobey, then God gave him a consequence too. And that's why snakes don't have legs. They have to just slither around on the dirty ground their whole life, all snakes now. That's because sin came into the world. Isn't that sad? But snakes do not talk, but they can bite. And they have something called venom. Say that with me. Venom. And that venom can make you very, very sick and can hurt you. So you do not want to get bit by a snake. And you want to stay far, far away from all snakes. Don't let them get you. Don't let them get you. You know what? Snakes, they will not only just eat a bird, but they'll eat a bird egg. They'll want eggs for breakfast too, just like you do, but they eat the whole thing. They eat the shell. They eat everything that's in it. They eat everything. Snakes just like to eat lots of things, and they'll just swallow it all whole. And sometimes you can watch, if you ever watch something on TV about a snake, like a video or something, you can see the egg kind of travel all through the snake. It's actually kind of cool to watch, but you don't want to get anywhere near a snake. Now, you might have a snake for a pet, boys and girls watching, and that's really cool. And your mommy and daddy probably help you with that. But you don't want to get near pets, those or near a snake. They're kind of wild, aren't they? They're wild, just like some of these other animals that we would see down at the pond. So you don't want to mess with a snake. So what's it called because they don't have ears, how they feel that there's things around it? What's that called?
Vibration.
Vibrations. Good. That was a big word. Say that again.
Vibration.
Vibration. And then what is it? How do they get around? They get around on their
Belly.
bellies. Good job. Now I got to tell you one more thing. Do they have feathers? No. Do they have wings? No, they don't. Their skin, they have skin, and their skin is scaly. Say that with me. Scaly. It is very scaly. If you ever get to touch a snake with supervision, you would be able to feel it. It's kind of rough and scaly. It's called scaly. Kind of like if you ever get a sunburn and then your skin starts to peel and maybe it gets a little bit, kind of almost like if you get a boo-boo and you get it gets healed, you know, and sometimes I tell you it's God's Band-Aid on there. You get a scab and it feels kind of crunchy. I know that's a weird word to say about a boo-boo, but it gets a little scab on there. That's scaly. It feels kind of scaly that way. Or when your skin gets a sunburn and you start to peel, it's scaly, and that's what a snake skin's like. It's scaly. So is a snake something you want to play with? No, it's not. But it's neat that God made the snakes. He made all kinds. He made baby ones. And some of them only grow to be this big. He made great big ones. They can wrap around your whole body. Those are definitely ones you want to stay away from. They make garden ones that like to live in a garden. They like to live there. There's some that live in the pond. There's great big ones that live in the jungle. There's all kinds of different ones that God made. I'm glad that we get to learn about these creatures. Some that we can have as pets and can play with all the time. Some we have as pets, but we leave them in their cages like a snake. And it's fun to visit different places like the pond.